why is this interesting? That's the next thing. What's the point of this? Why is this even something we're worried about? Well, with fiat currency or the U.S. dollar, the monetary system that we have in the United States, the money supply is based on what the government wants it to be, basically. And we've seen this in the last few months as they've printed trillions and trillions of dollars, which has inflated the monetary supply or the money supply, the number of dollars that are out there in circulation. In fact, last week they set the inflation target, they raised it from 2% to 3%. So they're willing to accept some inflation now of the currency in hopes that it will spur economic activity and will stave off a severe recession or even a depression. And so that's the goal. And so the dollar itself is not what we would call hard money like gold is. And so I think it's helpful to think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in a similar way, at least, that we think about gold. And why is gold a useful currency? Well, gold is a useful currency because it's pretty predictably scarce. We know that there's not an infinite amount of gold.
Now, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. What do you mean by scarce?
Right. Yeah. So you can't just print gold out of nowhere. Gold has to be mined from the earth, and we have a pretty good grasp on how much is actually mined each year, from the earth. And so it's predictably scarce in the unlike dollars that are printed at will by the government, basically. And so that makes gold a harder money than the U.S. dollar or dollars, because we don't know how many dollars are going to be in circulation in the next 10 years or next year or next month even, because the government could decide that they wanted to spend $2 trillion on another bailout package, and that would inflate the dollar supply.
Well, and I think it also it's more like gold in that worldwide, gold is sort of known and held up as something of value, and it has a similar value across the world.
Yeah, it's universally recognized.
Unlike currencies, vary daily, hourly, by the minute, and can move up and can move down. And a lot of what I look at with Bitcoin is not how it affects us in the U.S., but how it affects people in developing countries. Yeah. And so for them, gold, is probably even more tremendously valuable, more valuable than the actual dollar amount that we assign to it here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and currencies can move not just up and down in value, but up and down in value relative to each other. And so sometimes the dollar is more strong than the yen. And so it's, all these things are related to one another, and their values, fluctuate relative to different things and at different times for different reasons. And so, and part of that is the supply that's out there. So like gold, Bitcoin is, and even more so, knowably, provably scarce. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins minted, and they're minted every 10 minutes. What we call, and you've heard of blockchain, and blockchain is just that, a chain of blocks, and in each block are all the transactions that happen, and each block is created. A block is created every 10 minutes, and so all the transactions that happen on Bitcoin are put into a block every 10 minutes. And that chain of blocks goes all the way back to the beginning, to the Genesis block of Bitcoin. And with every block comes new Bitcoin. And right now, the number of Bitcoin that's created every 10 minutes is six and a quarter Bitcoin. And that number will half every 4 years approximately till the year 2150-ish.
So just to dumb down the blocks, think of it if you were writing down all the transactions in a notepad. Yeah. And each notepad, you got to the last page and you were full. That would go the end of your desk, and you would start on the next one. Yep. And they're all back there, and they're all lined up, sort of. But that's all that are in that block. It's just a big wad of transactions.
Right.
That can't be changed.
Right. And everybody's got that stack, and they all start on a new page at the same time. And so whenever a new block gets added, everybody agrees, okay, this is what this block looks like. This is all the transactions that are included in this block, and it's propagated out to the network. Everybody agrees, okay, yes, that's it. It's added to the blockchain, and then you become more and more certain that those transactions are legitimate as time goes on and as more confirmations happen and as that chain gets longer and longer. So,
and there's an algorithm built into the blocks that gives you a code at the end.
Yeah.
That has to be solved for.
Right.
So if you change anything inside the block, it changes the code, and then the blockchain doesn't work, because to be
Right.
able to connect
Right.
those blocks together.
Yeah, it's
gonna
Merkle
get
trees. Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
there's like
yeah.
Merkle trees and
Right.
hashes and all this kind of stuff that makes it. But just trust me when I say that it can do what they say it can do. It can create this immutable ledger of transactions that can't be changed. And so, why is it interesting? Because Bitcoin is hard money. You know exactly how many Bitcoins are going to be produced every 10 minutes. You know how many Bitcoins will be out there in 10 years. You'll know how many Bitcoins will be out there in 100 years. And there will only ever be 21 million that are minted. And we also know that, by the way, 3 or 4 million of those Bitcoins, even right now, that are out there are lost forever because people have lost their private keys. And that's the thing. There's lots of double-edged swords when you're talking about Bitcoin. If you lose your private key, your password to your account, it's gone. You can't get it back. It's impossible to crack with the technology that we have today. Not to say that it will always be. Okay, so that's why it's interesting, is because it's a true hard money, kind of like gold, but I would say even harder than gold in the sense that we know exactly how much there will be at any point in the future. With gold, it's possible that somebody in California could strike it rich and find a huge pile of gold that's as big as the amount of gold we have that's known right now. Or Elon Musk has talked about mining asteroids to get gold. And so if
Right.
that happened, it would increase the supply. So we don't know for sure how much gold is going to be out there tomorrow.
Well, we tend to value things that are rare, whether it's a
Yeah.
diamond or a painting or a baseball card or whatever it may be.
Land,
So there's
whatever.
a rarity here
Yeah.
that makes it. And yes, we're assigning that value, but we do that in lots of different ways. Gold is a prime example of something that we've just chosen to assign a value to it that's not related to its use. It's just we've
Right.
assigned a value.
And it's mainly because of its scarcity, because we can be pretty sure, it's not like every day somebody goes and finds a gold nugget laying around. It's very scarce. It's hard to find. It's hard to produce or to extrude from the earth. It takes a lot of work, to get it. And so I would make an argument that facet of gold, that it's scarce, is more important than its physical use.
Yeah.
Because you can use gold for electronics, you can use gold for jewelry, but really at the end of the day, there are other substitutes that you can use, and that would be just as good or better in some cases than that.
But what you're not going to do is you're not going to take a piece of gold down to Walmart and
Yeah.
buy your cereal at Walmart
Right.
with it. That's
Right.
not going to
I
happen.
think a good illustration of why the scarcity makes it so valuable would be if you had a celebrity that didn't sign very many autographs. Like, it was really hard to get them to sign an autograph.
Yeah.
That would make their autograph, if they were somebody that people want their autograph, let's say, that makes their autograph worth a lot more. Now,
Yeah.
if they all of a sudden start deciding, well, shoot, my autograph's worth $10,000, I'm going to start signing
Sell on
stuff.
eBay right now.
Flood the
They
market
start
with the
flooding the
autographs.
market with signatures. That makes the value, because it's so easy to get it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it makes it go
kind of like
down.
if you can print as much money as you want, it makes
Yeah.
the money itself worth less.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can mine as much gold as you want, same thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If there were no limit on how much gold was out there, or you could get it very easily, then it would cease to be worth much.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, if you live on the beach and you use seashells as your currency, that's not a very useful currency if you live on a beach, because it's easy. Seashells are easy to come by. If you live in the mountain, seashells might be good because they're harder to come by. That's just another example. So why not gold? So what can Bitcoin do that gold can't? I've kind of already talked about this a little bit, but I'll go a little bit deeper. Just like Mike said, it's not very easily divisible. You have to, it would be impractical if we use gold and you shaved off parts of gold, to pay for something. Or if you took around gold coins, it's hard to transport, very much of it. It's you can have a small amount and carry it around pretty easily, but if you're talking about moving large sums of money or value, it would be very difficult. It poses a huge
And then the arc of sort of humanity's trying to strive to achieve things through technology. This is what makes sense, right? It is the way that you digitize gold or digitize money,
Right.
which also makes it more accessible, in my opinion,
Absolutely.
to everybody. Because
Yeah.
everybody and anyone on the planet that has a cell phone with internet access now has the ability to access a a form of either value or currency in Bitcoin.
Yep.
Not everyone can access gold, or certainly
Right.
gold of any value or significant value. So
That's right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Another thing, there are problems of gold with actually storing it. If you wanted to have a large amount of gold, you would have to trust a third party or risk it, bury it in your
guard it
backyard
a
or
lot.
guard it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even then, I mean, you would have to at some point probably trust a third party to hold it for you. Whereas with Bitcoin, that problem is solved by you owning your private key. Which again is a double-edged sword. If you lose the key, you've lost your Bitcoin. But it's easier you can remember your key in your head. It's just a string of 20 words or something. Depending on it can be more complex than that if you want to. But you can actually remember your keys in your head if you commit it to memory. Okay, so we've already kind of talked about it. It's not easily divisible. The supply is unknown. There are things that can change the supply in unknown ways to us today. With certain technologies or certain extrusion methods or asteroid mining and stuff like that. So we're not sure exactly how much gold there will be, in the future.
well, I think oil is a good comparison.
Yeah,
So
sure.
fracking allowed us to access way more oil reserves than I think we ever believed that we would be able to access, and it changed the paradigm. And some would say that, in some ways for the United States it was a very good thing, but in some ways when you have more oil available, obviously more supply than demand, then your prices are going to come down. So it's the same thing.
Absolutely.